Here we are, the Creator CYPHER Live Lounge. I am your host today, Vanessa Torres, in partnership and collaboration with Creative CYPHER, the Second City Film School, the Miracle Center, and Troy Pryor. Welcome everyone from Chicago, West Coast, Midwest, East Coast. You're here in our lounge and we're excited. I'm so honored to be able to interview today Doreen Calderon. She is a home-based Chicago native. But just before I start, I'm going to go ahead and give you some background to her bio. Welcome, Doreen. Hello, Doreen. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yay! Well, I'm going to go ahead and start with your bio so people get a little bit of background to who you are. Second City actress and performer Doreen Calderon was born and raised in Chicago by Mexican-American parents. The youngest of three girls, she attended an all-girls Catholic high school, and her parents made ends meet with flea market sales on the weekends where she was allowed to roam free and learn about the playground politics. Her family belonged to the Lithuanian parish Nativity BVM in the Marquette Park neighborhood. Doreen attended Nativity BVM Grammar School and Maria High School. My sister also attended. Shout out to my sister. After graduation, Calderon sang in cover bands and then attended a top theater conservatory. She received several academic scholarships to attend the Goodman School of Drama at DePaul University in Chicago. She left the conservatory to study at the Second City Training Center, where she was hired to perform with a touring company. She went back to college and received an AA in graphic design from Los Angeles Community College, where she was a class valedictorian. During her first few years in LA, she performed stand-up comedy, taught improvisation, did more theater, and booked several television and national commercials. She is the Latina star of the Academy Award nominated short Please Hold that is currently on HBO Max. She has some exciting new TV and film projects coming up and was recently featured on Call Me Kate on Fox. That's streaming as well. Fun facts. She's a dream interpreter. Dream interpretation is a way to solve problems and find clarity. Dreams offer guidance, validation, confidence, encouragement, and most of all the truth. Friends, let's welcome into the CYPHER Lounge, Doreen Calderon.
Thank you, Vanessa.
You're welcome. Welcome into the CYPHER Live Lounge. And like I like to say here at the Miracle Center, we're in the sala, so I have my chanclas on. So let's get comfortable, let's relax, we're having a conversation. Let's welcome all of our family and friends who are with us, who are joining us across the nation. So if you want to shout out to your family out here, hey.
I don't know if anybody's decided to take off work to watch me. And my parents live in an area now where they have no internet, so there you go.
Well, hello to all the family who will watch it later and the recorded. Let's just start from the beginning, Doreen. Just so we can get some background, I want to hear just like how you started in theater. If you can give some background, your Chicago roots that led you to the path to Hollywood.
Well, that's funny. When people talk about a path to something on their career, we don't see the path until we look behind us. Right? So we create it as we go along. And this is what I love about improv too. It's so much about instinct and like, maybe I'll try this and maybe I'll try that. But I think the inspiration to want to act was because I was watching a lot of TV as a kid and saw the perfect families. And I wanted it wasn't so much the perfect family so much as like the perfect demographic. Like, we didn't have new clothes, but the kids on TV had new clothes. And the Brady Bunch, they had a housekeeper. Are you kidding? We didn't even have a dishwasher. You know? So it was that sort of thing of like, maybe if I am an actor, I can get that perfect life.
And And so do you feel that, I know that in theater, it gives you that outlet to go ahead and express yourself, step into the role that your real life doesn't really have set, but
Right.
this other role.
Which was a big wake up call when I got into television and film, because I was a theater actress in Chicago before I moved to LA. And the thing we love about theater is that we can wear a mask and a costume and be a whole character. And we've got weeks and weeks of rehearsal. Then I found out in LA, like, no, they just want you to be yourself. I was horrified.
Let's talk about that for a second. Okay, so in theater at the Miracle Center, we work with a lot of teens and youth in the arts and theater. So as you said, there's like a 12-week process of rehearsals. But now you said you went to LA and now you had to be totally yourself. Take us through that moment of Chicago, Midwestern life, LA, East Coast or West Coast, and now you're saying I have to be myself. What does that look like?
Well, I discovered something really quickly. The difference between East Coast actors, and I'm going to put Chicago in that category, and West Coast actors. The East Coast actors know everything about the craft. The West Coast actors know everything about marketing and the business. The problem is when each one of those doesn't learn about the other. We have to have a good marriage of the two in order to have a successful career. And there's a lot of people that are resistant. I had friends from the East Coast who are like, my resume should be enough. I shouldn't have to fill in the blank, whatever it is in LA. And people in LA going, I got to take class, you know?
And so you're filling in, like, as you said, like fill in the blank for these moments. But as you're filling in like these, I'm from the Midwest, East Coast sector of the industry, coming into West Coast, LA, you were at DePaul University, Second City, then you went to the LA Community College, studied graphic design, and led into theater, improv, comedy. I want to put all those pieces together first.
Oh, well, there was a big gap. Okay. So I went to the conservatory, the theater conservatory at DePaul. See, I never really talk about the name of it because the name has changed. When I went there, it was called the Goodman School of Drama. And the Goodman School of Drama was very prestigious as a conservatory. It used to belong to the Art Institute of Chicago. But when I went there, it moved to DePaul. And then after I left there, it became the theater school so that all people from different majors could take classes. It wasn't a strict conservatory. So I was there at a bubble in time where it was only theater, all theater, very serious theater majors.
But in Chicago, we know that Chicago's very theater heavy.
Yes, yes. So I thrived, right? I left DePaul and I started hitting the pavement right away, auditioning for everything and everything and everything. I got cast in things right away, but the first 3 plays I was cast in, I dropped out of because even at that young age, I knew crap from good. I knew, like, who are these clowns running this show? I'm going to quit and find another one. It took me a year to find a decent show that I was finally in. But when I left the conservatory, I was very much in my head. And that's why I went to study at the Second City. I just wanted to play. I'm like, I got to get out of my head. And I did it just for fun. I didn't take into consideration the people in this country who travel cross country just to be a part of the Second City. I'm like, well, I live here. This is where I can take class. Da, 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 da.
Right. It was another workshop. It was another class. It was another course. And it's in our hometown. So it's just like, all right, I'm going to take the bus and get to school.
Yeah, yeah.
And so talk to me about that training that you had at Second City.
Well, it was great. What I loved about that whole environment, and you don't have it out here, is that not only are you in class learning the craft, you're also given free reign of every single show. As long as you're in class, you got to see every Second City show for free, right? And that's how you learn. So I was watching literally who was on the main stage when I first started class, because there was a gap in there, people like Bonnie Hunt and Dan Castellaneta, they were on the main stage.
And
Okay.
you were a student and able to watch these shows.
Yes, yes. And then I had to drop out, I think, because I ran out of money or something like that for like maybe a semester or something. Then I came back with a whole new group of students. And when we were there, Chris Farley was on the main stage.
Wow.
Nia Vardalos was on ETC, I believe, as was Steve Colbert, Steve Carell. So we're watching all of these, and people that America doesn't know, but were just as good to watch. So I learned from the best. It was so good. And the people in my class, I am still friends with today. And we're talking over 30 years ago. So that was, not only did you learn the craft, you got to perform it. And then your fifth level, as they called it, your graduating class, was nothing but rehearsal to perform the show that you wrote a la Second City style. There's a specific style, and one of the prerequisites we had as a student was every day you had to read the newspaper, because that's what the Second City was about. Satire and shining a light on what's in the world.
And so your training there, how did the comedy, the improv training prepare you for the roles that you were taking or have taken?
Well, here's the thing. I took class there with no intention of getting hired. But as you do, once you take class there, you and your friends just start performing elsewhere. So I was in a bunch of different improv groups. At that time, okay, so there was a gap. Then one of the directors approached me about a year and a half later. Second City was, enacting their very first minority initiative on hiring. Mm-hmm. I was part of that wave.
How many years ago?
Was this in 92?
Okay. It's almost 30 years ago.
35? Was it? I don't know.
30 years ago. 30 years ago. My brother was born 92, so yeah, 30 years ago.
And so I had already been out of class for a while. I'm like, oh, I better get some more training under my belt. So I went, where else is another Chicagoan supposed to go? I went to Improv Olympic. And Improv Olympic focused on pure improv and the Herald, long form improv. Whereas Second City focused on a little long form, a lot of short form, and a lot of sketch writing. So I was just getting into practice, and then I fell in love with long form. And when I was at Improv Olympic, people who were performing there already, Adam McKay, Matt Besser from UCB, Amy and Tina came in just as I was leaving, so it was all around. Wow. Rachel Dratch was there. There were just all these amazing people. Neil Flynn was there. So then I felt, then I was ready, and then I was hired to work at the Second City. I could go on. There's all these like little stories.
Oh no, but I love like how we're connecting the dots, because the first initial conversation or the question was the career path to Hollywood. So you're taking us on the journey, what it is from Midwest, East Coast, theater life, film industry to West Coast. And now you landed in LA, you're now with a train that you have received from Second City, IO, and now you're in LA and you're hitting the television and also the national commercials. What is that? What was that journey now that now that you have landed in LA? What was that like?
I did leave out one little thing in between there. Before I got hired at Second City, I was hired at Steppenwolf. I did a show over there, the Steppenwolf Theater. And that's how I got my equity card. So when I came to LA, I had at the time all three cards: equity, AFTRA, and SAG, which is kind of unheard of for anyone just landing in LA. Most people don't belong to a union. And I didn't realize how hard it was to get into the union once you get to LA. I did it because I had done all these industrial films when I was in Chicago.
Okay, so that was done in Chicago. So you already had all three. So you
Yeah.
already covered the bases that you needed to. And
Because,
now,
because you cannot get any television work unless you're part of the union in Los Angeles. So it was a struggle for a lot of my friends. But here's what happened, Vanessa. I have to tell you that my training from Chicago and the Second City and improv made me stand out in one specific situation. I didn't have an agent when I got here. I didn't have connections. I had nothing. But a guy I had worked with in Chicago one time was an aspiring screenwriter. He invited me to read for a staged reading for his script. And he had me read like 4 or 5 different characters. I'm like, I love this. I could just go from this character to that character to that character. And what I just automatically did as a performer, I incorporated space work. So, if I was somebody that was, I don't know, drinking a hot coffee, where there's a gag, I would go, where the other actors were simply reading the script. I remember at one point I was a bride and I went like this and I lifted up my veil and had my one line and the audience busted out laughing. This all came naturally to me. So my fellow actors were noticing. One of my fellow actors said, I'm going to help you. You are so talented. I'm going to help you. And she helped me. I didn't know, and this is the difference between LA and Chicago. I didn't know in the audience was a commercial casting director.
wow.
I didn't have any agents. I didn't have any ins. She said, I want you to come in next week. I've got an audition. I need you to. I booked the first commercial I auditioned for that following week. And every single person told me when you go to LA, don't expect to book anything until 50 auditions in. That was my very first on-camera audition in LA, and I booked it. It was a national commercial, which also had some voiceover, which also had some print work. Yeah.
Yes.
So I was experiencing anything can happen.
Absolutely. We always say here that you never know who's going to be in the room. You never know if you're an actor, an actress on stage, or tech in the booth. You never know who that audience member is, or even if you're working the front of house, you never know who is going to be walking in that night or that afternoon show that you have going on. And for you, you're a testament to that phrase itself. You did all your work that you had done in Chicago, and the moment that you had to shine on stage led you to absolutely opening all the doors that you needed to. And so that was a prime example.
Yes, and I love to tell that stories because I coach actors for career coaching now, and I want them to know that. So what if you're in between agents? You can still get work without an agent. Keep looking, but you can still get work. And I love to tell that story. And you touched on something funny in LA when you say you never know who's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's sort of I think John Guare, the playwright, called it the LA disease, likability, terminal likability. It's in one of his plays. Because LA actors are always assuming the person in the grocery store is probably a producer. So you want to be liked, you want to be liked, you want to be liked.
So you're ready. You're grabbing your produce. You're ready. You're in action.
Well, it can go to the extreme where being kind ends up being a means to an end instead of just being kind. Right?
Yes. I love that you said that. Back in 2016 at the Miracle Center, we had Lin-Manuel Miranda do a Q&A with our students. And he talked about his experience. He had his father, Luis Miranda, on stage as well. And overall, the conversation, as my students, as the Miracle Center family, the alums that did come into the room to have the experience with him and just ask some questions, we were first starstruck that he was with us in the building. And I'm looking at the time and I'm like, nobody has a question yet. But one thing that he did say is that to be kind. And I think those words, very simple as they are very important in the industry that we do have. And in all sectors in general, but specifically that we're talking about theater, film, acting, tech and whatnot. I think it's very important to understand that the genuine people and the essence of who we are should come from a spirit of just kindness. And you touched on that.
Yeah, and I want to go even just a step deeper with
Go
that.
ahead.
I think kindness comes from a place of, it's not about me. Not so that kindness is, oh, do this and do that. Ask them if they're okay. Open the door. It's not about actions. It's about starting from that place of, it's not about me.
How is that transferred on screen or when you're reading a script? It's not about me. I'm taking on this role.
That's the thing that, I'm sorry, is my lighting too dark? It is about how we survive. And let me hear me out. When it's not about me as an actor, I then understand not getting a role, right? It's not because life is unfair or I wasn't good enough. It's not about me. They needed to cast in a certain way where I have no idea what their creative process is, and I must respect their creative process, right?
Right.
I was working on a film a couple of weeks ago, and each take they took, I was painfully aware that they were giving me less and less screen time. And if I had made it about me, I would not have understood their creative process. And I clicked into that right away because of the nature of the film, because of the genre of the film. It made so much sense.
So when you're taking yourself out of that moment of this is not about me, you already know that the director they already have it set. The director of photography, everybody knows what that role or who that person should be playing. I think that's very important. I think it's important too for our youth, because I work with a lot of youth, and I think that as you're training, you're learning, even young actors or young adults who are coming into the industry, we take things on very personal. Oh, damn, I wasn't ready for that. I should have done, you take it personally hard on yourself. But I think if you go from a place, as you said, Doreen, it's not about me, understanding the bigger picture. And I think for us, understanding the bigger picture of who we are and where we're called to be in the industry, what as a Latina or how as a Latina, what obstacles have you faced and how did you overcome them going through these auditions and script readings and readings of shows?
There's different phases of how as I forget his name in Birdcage, my Latinas, Latinism,
Latina?
Kind of hit me in the face, we'll say. When I was auditioning in Chicago, we're talking late 80s, early 90s, I would scour the reader every week. Every Thursday, because it would come out I'd get the early edition and look through all the casting notices and try to audition. And if the role said, mom, 20s to 30s, this is da-da-da-da-da, I knew they weren't looking for me. That was just something you understood back in the day, unless, and here was the term back then, unless it said colorblind casting.
Colorblind casting.
Which means they were open to someone who looked like me. And that really jazzed me, because they weren't going to whoever they were, weren't going to cast me, let's say in Shakespeare, unless it was for high schools. It's weird. It's like, we need minority actors for the high schools, but not for the main stage stuff.
Wow.
So that's where it kind of got like that. But I never, again, took it personally. I understood this is another way to survive. Understand the rules of the game. Understand rules can change. But if you don't understand that it's all a game, you're in for a lot of pain. So I understood the rules of the game, and I would just go, okay, not here, where? Not here, where? Not here, where? And that's what I loved about improv, because I could be whatever I wanted. I could be a white Southern lady. I could be antebellum, and nobody would question it. You know, I could be Latina from the hood, and people would laugh, and they would, but just whatever it was. And I was allowed to express my creativity that way. Coming to LA, I was given the same story that I was given in Chicago. Latins are in right now. Latins are in. I had been hearing that. I'm still hearing that. But then I'd get sent out for roles. Yay, it was a television audition, but for the maid, the housekeeper, the nanny. And here's my problem. I don't have a problem doing those roles because girlfriend needs a job. I just
keeping it real.
I just couldn't fulfill an expectation of that role because I am very slim. I'm just naturally small. Mm-hmm. I'm not the voluptuous, hot Latina, nor am I the rounder mama. Those are the stereotypes, and I didn't fit into any of those. So when I would go out for the maid and the nanny, they could see my college degrees seeping out.
Wow. All the training.
And that's where it kind of hurt me because it's like I could still play that. LA is looking for people who are more like that. Now, here's where it's playing in my favor. What's always been natural to me is the compassionate authority figure, right? High school principal, doctor, nurse, lawyer. Now I'm playing judges, like that's exactly. And my cousin, a Latina in outside of Houston, she's a judge, like we exist.
Right, absolutely. We play all careers and we have different levels from corporate to nonprofit. We're at all levels in our career path. So absolutely we could play the roles. I'm looking from the sense of, when you first started in the industry to where you're at now. With Please Hold, right?
Yeah.
The HBO, that's streaming on HBO, Please Hold, is a film that is all Latino cast with a universal message that is relatable to a general audience in different ways. And so I want to talk about that because that's the Academy Award nominated short film, correct?
Yeah.
And so I want to know, like, if you could tell us about more and your role, because we talked about earlier, the different, there was the maids, but sometimes you couldn't feel that. Sometimes you couldn't feel the mamas, but you were filling out principals, doctors, and lawyers. And now you have an Academy Award nomination for the short film that had an all Latino cast. Yeah. That's very rare.
Yeah, it is. And I want to be clear about that nomination. The nomination was for the film itself. I just happen to be part of it. How lucky am I? I did lose you. I just want to say that I can't see you anymore.
Right. We are technical difficulties at the moment, but we are on. I still hear you. We can go ahead.
Yeah. So that was a fun audition. I had just acquired a manager, and I told her, I want to do more film. I've been doing a lot of TV and commercials, and that's great, but I really want to do more film. And she sent me on this audition, and I looked at it, I'm like, I've done short films. I should have told her I wanted to do feature film. Well, I'll go. I'll go on this audition, and because it's a new relationship, and I'll just go. Well, I had a rare opportunity for an LA audition, and that is they let us play. They brought us into a room, me and my husband. Now we had the script, but they said, just go ahead and improvise and play with however you want. And I'm like, what? I'm being called in as a Latina and an improviser? Those two things don't happen in my.
Was that a perfect like dream role opportunity for you?
Well, I don't know what it is to see or want a dream role. I do know what a dream experience is.
Okay.
And this was a dream audition experience. So here I am. Not only do I get to play with this guy, but they're like, okay, great, hang out. We're probably going to have you come back in. I'm like, I get to play again? And they got me with another husband. Now this happens in theater a lot, but not in on camera stuff. So I was having a lot of fun. Got chemistry with one guy in particular. He ended up being my husband. By the time we got on set, I was taking it personally. I'm like, well, why isn't the director talking to us? Where is she? Did she? Because it was only the camera in front of us, and she was like in another area. And I'm like, why isn't she? Why isn't she? And I realized because she had cast it so well, her process, she knew that we were just let him go, let him do whatever.
So you had like the autonomy to just be free.
Yeah, I mean, there would be a direction kind of.
Right. But you coming from improv, that's like a familiar like motion for you.
Yeah.
And so the Second City training helped you do you feel that it prepared you for that role moving forward?
Oh, absolutely. All the improv, people take it for granted. They think that improv is just whose line is it anyway?
No, it's true.
It's so much more. It's so much a piece of the puzzle to our craft. Even if, as an actor, you don't perform in an improv group, take the class, learn what it's about, apply it to your own rehearsals. It's invaluable in my book. Invaluable.
No, I love this. I love that these little gems that you're giving and throwing out there because it's giving that dream experience. I love how you said that too. With that, because my question was what your dream role, then you flipped it to the dream experience. And also, what does that training look like? You said, go ahead and take the workshops, go ahead and take the classes, go ahead and get that experience to level up to what that next career path is looking like. And so putting this all in motion, Chicago, Midwest, theater, having the opportunity that because somebody was in that room brought you to preparation for LA that was, you have all your 3 cards. You're ready to hit the road. And you're Latina. So there's these other roles and these obstacles that you had to face. Was there ever a moment of imposter syndrome and that you were afraid on the job?
I'm sure there are many moments. Probably my very first year out here, because I had gotten that national commercial and 2 or 3 network television credits my very first year without having an agent, without having any connections. And the 3 close friends that I came to LA with from Chicago, they were hitting a bunch of obstacles. And I took it upon myself to feel bad, to feel guilty. And what that did, and please, everybody who's an actor, pay attention to this. What that did, me taking responsibility for someone else's life, started me on the path of playing small.
Wow.
I started to shrink. I thought, I don't want my friends to feel bad. Now, they didn't have a hard time with me. It was all in my head.
Did you feel it was like too much shine.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I was shining too brightly, and I felt bad because they weren't shining enough or at all. And I took it upon myself to fix it or whatever it was, the story I had created. So I decided to play small, but I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea I was doing it until years later, because what that did was it started, my energy started to shrink, and I wasn't shining, and the opportunities were closing. I was
Wow.
closing them because I was playing small
Wow.
instead of stepping into not my greatness, but humanity's greatness. We all are connected to that same infinite creativity, infinite wisdom.
Yes.
Call it whatever you want. We're all connected. And the moment I cut myself off from that, it's like Alice Walker said, I think God is insulted when you see the color purple and you don't notice. And
Wow.
I wasn't noticing my color purple.
Wow. I want to take a moment right there because people are probably coming into the room thinking, all right, I want to hear about Doreen's life and acting and film. But we have to take a moment to pause and understand that at the end of the day, we're human. We have to step into where we're called in the industry, or any industry that you may, whether it be a role, whether it be, in your career path. But I love how you said it was just the impact at the end of the day, right? You're talking about be kind. We're talking about taking ourselves out for the moment. And we're also talking about if we shrink ourselves of those opportunities, we're closing the doors. If we shrink ourselves in the moments, we're closing ourselves to relationships that we can gather with one another. Being connected to one another is so important, which is why I appreciate what we have, technology. You're in LA and I'm in Chicago, and we're able still to connect and have this conversation. And even to go even deeper than that is just like, oh, we're talking about film and all the credits that you do have, which are remarkable. But let's connect at a human level. And so I'm really appreciating this conversation of you're dreaming, let's dream big. Let's also make sure that we're not shrinking ourselves when we're in the room, that we have those opportunities to connect with one another at the level that we should be able to, and choose kindness, to be kind, and share the knowledge that we have. Thank you to Creative CYPHER and Troy Pryor, who was able to hey, let's collaborate on this. Let's collaborate on a project. Let's meet with Doreen. And these are the opportunities that I'm so grateful for, because going back now, I'll be able to say to our teams here in Chicago, it's like, let's have this conversation together as we're so in our head about reading our scripts. I can throw all my questions out the door right now as we're reading our scripts and trying to study what we have to study. But let's be in the moment of being together. Oh, I just dropped my in here really quick. Hold on one moment. But let's just be together in the moment. And I think sharing this conversation is so important right across the board. We've all experienced being in a pandemic that took us away from who we are, our people, our family, our tribes. And now we're trying to re-enter into the world and find who we really are and the purpose and the impact. So thank you for that, Mom. Thank you for sharing that. That was just outside of Doreen. How was your career path in Hollywood? You really drove me through and navigated through who you are from the beginning of your parents in the flea markets, really showing you hard work. In Maria High School, DePaul University, Second City, the people that you met. And now we're here. Go ahead.
About hard work, because that's a key component to imposter syndrome. We live in the American ethic myth that anything worth having must be hard to get. That's a myth.
Why so?
Well, I gave you an example of when I first came to LA and I just followed a breadcrumb trail. Next thing you know, I've got a national commercial going, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't hard. It was easy because I said yes. I said yes to this. I said yes to that. So when we experience imposter syndrome, it's usually because something has come easy to us.
Wow.
And we
Yes.
start to feel like because we're living in that made up story, that myth, that good stuff is you're supposed to work hard. You're supposed to suffer. That's the worst part of it. You're supposed to suffer. Sorry, that's what all Christianity is based on. You're supposed to suffer. Otherwise, you're not good. And that's just a myth. You're born good. God don't make junk, right?
Right, right.
We're meant to have the best in life. So once we get rid of that myth, the imposter syndrome can just float away.
I love that. We're right here. We're right here. We're connected, we're grounded, we're centered. And like you said, because it really resonates with me, that sometimes the things that are so easy to us, the process flow is probably the things that we doubt the most about ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's coming into an audition, that's reading the script and saying, I don't really think I'm good enough for this role. I don't think I'm good to take this opportunity. But when the opportunity presents itself and you're connected and you're grounded and you're surrounded by those who are going to go ahead and encourage you, this is where we're at today. So in the same spirit of graduation season, and for all those who are watching live and going to watch later, Doreen, can you give us some words of advice and wisdom that you like to leave?
Well, you reminded me of my valedictorian speech. And this may be confused with hard work, but if you've got a dream, a goal, a desire, don't shy away from being humiliated along the way. The best example we remember in the first Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, all those cars, he was humiliated. But Mr. Miyagi knew that he needed to go through the hard stuff, the tedious stuff, the icky stuff, because it's going to pay off.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Doreen, thank you for your time. You can see Doreen Calderon on HBO. That's streaming for...
Please hold. Please
I'm
hold.
sorry. Please hold. Please hold. Yes. It is streaming and Call Me Kat on Fox. Doreen, thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone who joined us tonight live on the Creative CYPHER Live Lounge. I hope to be back with you very soon. Doreen, let us know what's coming up next, and we'll be sure to follow you on social media if you want to tell us what your handle is.
It's my name, Doreen_Calderon.
Go ahead and follow her and see more upcoming events and projects that she has going on. Thank you, everyone. I'm Vanessa Torres, your host for tonight, and I'm signing off. Take care.